college football. Today, for the national championship in Division II of the NCAA, it's the Panthers of Eastern Illinois against the Mustangs of Cal Poly of San Luis Obispo.
Gokong was the National Defensive Player of the Year back in 2005 at Cal Poly after having 23 and a half sacks. That total remains an NCAA Division I football championship subdivision record.
Pumped up.
Let's go.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was awesome.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Locker Room. I am Ryan, one of your co-hosts with Kyle Shotwell and Troy Shotwell. What's up, guys?
What's up,
How you doing? Let's get to it.
Well.
Happy Sunday.
Did you guys enjoy the one less hour of sleep today?
I have kids, man. What's the difference?
So, well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is really exciting. Kyle and I have been thinking about doing this for a long time. And last week I texted Kyle. I was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then Troy, I don't know how long you've been thinking about this, but you've been listening to political talk radio for quite a bit. I think you're going to fit right in here.
Oh, I've been thinking about having a podcast for years. Every time I watch Rogan, I think I could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is more difficult than it looks. So let's get going here. This is the Shotwell brothers bringing you the Locker Room. And Kyle, if you could just kind of go over what is our intent for this podcast, and I'll help fill in the gaps there too. What is your vision for this?
I think, first of all, it gives us a chance as we get older and busier and lots going on. It's harder for us to just catch up. And normally when we catch up, a lot of the times it ends up being we somehow bring up Cal Poly. It becomes a big part of the conversation anyway. And so I think some of this is selfish. It's just a chance to give us a more structured way to hopefully be more consistent in how we talk and what we talk about. I think the second thing is, when you observe what's actually out there related to Cal Poly in general, if you look up podcasts for Cal Poly, there isn't even a podcast that even exists. And so I think for me, the intent would be a chance for us to continue to engage with Cal Poly and what they're doing in athletics, but even more broadly than that, what they're doing at the university and also San Luis Obispo in general, and kind of speak into some of that. So just SLO, I think it holds such a fun place in our hearts and our lives, and just being able to kind of find ways even in this stage of our lives that, continue to connect with what they're doing. So have some fun, hang out with you guys, and talk about things that are really near and dear to us, which is our Cal Poly Mustangs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, Cal Poly, one of the things that I was really looking forward to try to instill with this podcast is kind of an ecosystem where alumni, fans, friends of Cal Poly football and all of athletics can have a little platform to connect, share what's going on currently, and then as well as have a kind of an ecosystem where you're hearing the latest updates. We're bringing in alumni to other alumni to interview and see what they're up to, and just kind of have a format where we're feeling like we're back in the locker room. And as I think all of us, that playing the game was awesome, but being with your teammates day in and day out, those 5:30 mornings, coming in and getting dressed, and some of the comments and conversations before and after practice, that is what I miss the most. And so even if no one listens to this, just the ability for us to try to replicate it, I think it'll be fun.
No doubt.
Yeah. So, Troy, are you excited?
Yeah.
Thanks, Troy.
Well, welcome. This is like a really great window into our lives anyway. When we do talk about Cal Poly football, it's mostly Kyle talking and Ryan chipping in and me sitting silently. So, yeah, this is perfect. Everybody gets a little window.
Okay, well, so we kind of did our intent of the podcast, and then let's kind of dive into the Don O video. He just released kind of a State of the Union mid-year video that I wanted to talk about. Kyle, what were your kind of initial thoughts with Don O and some of the, really cool progress in a lot of areas of Cal Poly athletics, and then he touches on football as well. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, the first thing that jumped out to me was just the importance of doing things like that in that format. I thought it was, not super long-winded, short enough for everyone to pay attention to it, not overwhelm you. I think we need to hear more and more proactiveness from the athletic department. And so I do think that there is a lot of good that is going on in the department at large. And so to give us kind of to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, I think they need to do more of that stuff. I think the AD needs to be a bit more visible and beating the chest a little bit. There's things like us being, in first place in the Commissioner's Cup that I had no idea, right? Yeah. So I think they need to continue to invest more. They've obviously invested in the facilities, but I think looking for more creative, modern ways to engage digitally in this day and age where most people don't have a ton of time to sit there and do research, yada, yada, yada. So I think they're really on to something and kind of making him more visible. So, those kind of initial thoughts. I know we'll talk a little bit more about, some of the specific things that he talked about, but I give kudos for even doing that. I don't know what jumped out to you.
Well, I thought it was a really nice, high quality, and that's one of my big things where I really want Cal Poly to go in terms of the digital age. Quality. We're a polytechnic school, and being able to bring the gap with social media, YouTube videos, hopefully something like this, like a podcast, really brings us into the new age of kind of how football is being done or how athletics is being done. And I thought it was a really nice, this is really, really nice to see just kind of a state of the union and quick hits regarding kind of everything going on. I was blown away though with how successful a lot of the fall teams have been. And, a lot of great stuff going on athletically around the department. And then academically too. That's what's crazy is how well the students are doing, in terms of academics, which is really good to see. So I think we lost Troy here, but he'll come back.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Troy?
There he is.
I had to turn my camera off. My battery on my phone is about to die, so I had to plug it in.
What did you think, Troy?
You guys brought attention to it. I was trying to be discreet.
It's only 3 boxes. When one goes dark. What'd you think, Troy?
Well, honestly, I only watched about the first 10 minutes of it, but it was, I'm a little tired, it's good. The Madden Center, everybody's very excited about that, and I assume that's going to be a big deal for recruiting and bringing in new talent. I hope that comes along with more wins.
Yeah.
It seems like they're doing the best to try to buy a win, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What's really interesting is, when we were all there, I wouldn't say that, there was a lot of things that we were doing really well. Facilities was not one of them.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like it's almost switched. And, it's like facilities. You look around the Big Sky and the Big West. Our facilities are up there. I'd put our facilities in, especially the backdrop in which our facilities are at, with anyone, right? And so I think, kudos to Don and Ashley Offerman and those types of folks that are raising money. They've done an amazing job of putting the athletes in position to win. And
all the amazing alumni that have donated to get to the program to where it is. It's really incredible. And we're going to bring on a guest next podcast who's very involved with alumni fundraising, who can articulate exactly what's going on a little bit more. And I just want to let other alumni know, and he brought this to my attention when I had a phone call with him earlier this week. There's a lot of stuff in the background that's being done that we have no idea. And a lot of the alumni, they don't understand how far we have come. I was telling them how one of the associate athletic directors a few weeks ago reached out to me and wanted to meet. She was coming through Santa Barbara, and I told me, this is the first time anyone from Cal Poly Athletics has ever reached out to me. I've been out of the game for 12, 13 years, well, maybe 15 years now. And, his main point was, Ryan, up until last year when they got this funding to be able to hire some of these associate athletic directors for involvement, they haven't had anyone to be able to do stuff like this. And so there's a lot of stuff going in the background where we have no idea. And it's really, I think a podcast like this is to hopefully amplify what some of those things are going on and have alumni get involved that have, if you've never been to a game in the last 10 years, it's a completely different experience.
Totally.
And it's
totally
unbelievable.
Different.
And, and so you don't know unless you go, and we don't know unless we have these conversations. And that's what's going to be really fun to kind of help bring the alumni up to date with what is going on. So,
I had a situation. So Texas, where I'm at, Austin, Cal Poly came out and played baseball here a few weeks back, and same deal. They were in town and they reached out. Hey, we'd love to, have you come to our pregame and go to and attend the baseball game with us. Man, little things like that go so far with the alumni base, and so I'm very optimistic and I'm very positive on the things that are going on. I will say, the Don's video really did highlight cross country and soccer and women's soccer, and those are important. I do feel like they glossed over football a little bit. And when he spoke about, he said we made a big step forward last year. That was probably the piece in the whole video where I was like, really? I didn't see that.
Sure.
I didn't watch a ton, to be honest. I didn't watch every play. But from a wins and loss perspective, and when I did watch it on the field, it didn't look like a huge step forward.
Yeah.
But what does a step forward look like in your mind, Ryan?
Yeah, I think in my perfect world, if we could get, to my previous point, even from us that played 12, 15 years ago, being in the Big Sky in terms of football, it changes things, whether we want to admit it or not. We have a very competitive conference that are playing us year in and year out. And so, compared to when we were independent or within the Great West, where we only had 5 or 6 teams that we kind of rotated through, they're having to do things a little bit differently. And then with the NIL stuff, it's just a complete different world. And so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I would love to see something that what made Cal Poly successful during our era is how we did, and we talk about this all the time, how we were unique. We did things differently, right? Do I want to go back to the triple option? No. Do I think we should be running the spread offense where it's, we're the best receiver and quarterback versus the best? We need to do something unique to put us in a position to be competitive. And that's where I really want to go, is something that's kind of a hybrid, unique model that can also, throw the ball, run the ball, be balanced on defense, and more of an attacking defense. So, long story short, I think we should be in a position where we should be winning 6 or 7 games every year at a minimum. Yeah. That's what I would love, and then every 4 or 5 years for us to be in the hunt to win a Big Sky championship, I don't think is unreasonable. So big step forward, to go from 2 wins to 3 wins, I don't think that's a big step forward. I think a big step forward for us would get a 6-win season, somewhere around there.
Well, and how about be competitive with our actual rivals? When was the last time we were competitive with Sac State and Davis? There's no reason why we can't be competitive and beating the hell out of them more often than we are.
Yeah. And yeah.
No, I cut you off. Go for it.
No, and I think being an alumni, it is a hard pill to swallow when we're trying to ramp up these facilities, right? And the facilities are fantastic, But for us, San Luis Obispo is the best place to go to school and play sports in the country, in my opinion, in terms of total experience. And so I don't even feel like we need to be that top tier of a facility to attract great kids. We just have to
How
show.
are we out-recruiting Sac State and Davis? I don't understand it.
And Davis is the big one because it's like Davis academic standards very similar to Cal Poly. There's no, it's a great institution. If you brought a kid that was choosing between Cal Poly and Davis, in my humble opinion, no one should ever be going to Davis over San Luis Obispo. That's just...
especially from Southern Cal, right? We should not be losing any Southern Cal kids to Davis. I get it when it's a Sacramento kid or a kid that grows up in the central part of the state and they want to stay kind of quote unquote close to home. But yeah, man, you get south of Paso Robles, right there. There is no chance that you should be losing out to Davis from a recruiting perspective. And people ask me that all the time. What does improvement look like for Cal Poly? And I say, look at Davis as your benchmark. And we should. There's no reason that we should not be competitive with what Davis has done. And look how long their turnarounds have happened. Davis has had some down years, but they don't last long.
No.
And when they do, they find a coach, and the coach gets it on the right page, and they're back at it. They have not had, as far as I'm aware, the level of just complete losing that we've experienced over the last 12 years. I mean,
well, and they've been they were Division II, in 2003, 2004? I mean, they just made the 1AA leap in the early 2000s, which is even that much more incredible, right? So,
and I was actually watching even last night. So even on the basketball side, you want to look at who your comparable is on the basketball side. Again, you've got Davis, but we also have UCSD in the conference, University of California, San Diego. That's a great school. Extremely hard to get into. They were playing with a 7-footer at center. They had an incredible record over the course of the year, and I'm looking at that going, Cal Poly has 4 wins on the year. They've got a lot more than that, right? What's the difference, right? The difference is strictly coaching, right? And
sure.
not having uniqueness enough in the philosophies and how you recruit and who you're recruiting and how you're going to deploy the talent. I think what the fall sports showed us is that you can get smart, good athletes into the school. For those, I'll call them kind of lifetime sports. But I think for the team sports, right, when you have this level of academic rigor that we don't have with a Sac State or with an Idaho State or with a Northern Arizona, right? The only way you compete in that team level sport is to do something unique. To your earlier point, Ryan,
Yeah.
and I just think that's the point. That's the part where the last few football coaches, the last few basketball coaches, you can't just come in and do the playbook that you ran at school X, Y, or Z. You've got to embrace the uniqueness that is Cal Poly, and so I don't know. When you think about that, you kind of go, how far off are we as an athletic department? I think our athletic department's in a really good spot. How far off are we on football and basketball? Eesh.
Which is disappointing because there's 60,000. The tough thing is there's 60,000 kids applying to get into this school every year. And how that's not translating to wins on the football, and that's just, it's mind-blowing. You'd think out of 60,000 kids, you could find some recruits that are studs that want to get there and compete and dominate. One of the big things that we've talked about this through text messaging, but one of the associate directors, when I was meeting with her a few weeks ago, she said, well, Ryan, our average alumni lives 3.5 hours, or maybe it was 3 hours and 45 minutes away from San Luis Obispo. And I keep getting back to this. We have to, because San Luis Obispo, what makes SLO so awesome is that it's not in a big metropolitan area. A lot of kids don't know about it. Okay, we have to get our media and our digital interface and alumni a way to watch these games, and that's one of the big pushes. I feel like the athletic department to take it to the next level. we got to be able to broadcast these games and show this amazing San Luis Obispo game time experience, no matter what sport, but let alone Alex G. Spanos. We all know 6 o'clock on a Saturday night in Alex G on a fall afternoon. And is there anything better? That sunset and the atmosphere? I mean, it's really hard to beat, and we got to be able to showcase that. And, winning on the digital front, and especially for these kids nowadays to be able to tie in their social media, and we have to, at this being in 2024, for us to be able to tie in our complete package, that's got to get elevated big time, and it's hard to stream these games on ESPN Plus. It's clunky. I haven't watched a ton on ESPN Plus. I've done more in-person watching. How is that experience for you guys?
I was watching the basketball game last night, and I think a lot of it was probably because it was UCSD's feed, if I'm honest, and it seemed pretty good. But I'm right there with you. Sometimes I'm embarrassed because I'll scan through the 50 channels on a Saturday night and see all the other games being played, and then I go to the Cal Poly game, and it's the one where the audio is not working, right? So I'm right there with you. It's like that's a way that, honestly, that's been a great equalizer too. Like for the average person across the state of California or the country to be able to flip through and see Cal Poly's right next to the Arizona State game, right?
Absolutely,
awesome.
Yeah.
You're there. Compete in that arena. And I think you're right. Like with the fact that we are a polytechnic school, like our technology should be tight, right? That should be something that we do in spades better than other schools, and it has not. So I agree. I'd love to see the athletic department in the school in general really double down on that, saying this is a representation of what we look like digitally to the world.
Sure.
We've got a great product. Let's make sure that thing pops when people are flipping through that channel scroller on a Saturday night on ESPN Plus.
Well, and if the average alumni, sponsor, supporter of Cal Poly is 3.5 hours away, we have to bring the experience to them. It just only makes sense. We can't just sink all of our money and resources into making, the facilities great. We got to create that entire ecosystem, and having a high digital broadcast would be one of my big priorities. Okay, so moving on. Basketball here is going to be looking for a head coach, and I guess this kind of ties in what we were discussing earlier. Either basketball, football, any sport at Cal Poly. Kyle, what do you think? What kind of candidate have you seen that's been successful and kind of that culture that they're bringing to Cal Poly? What should they be looking for?
I mean, there's no doubt that it's somebody that has to understand that this is a super academic institution first, and always will be. Like, you have to start there. So it's got to be someone that embraces that challenge. But in my mind, it's two profiles of people, and on the surface, they seem a little bit different, but I'll explain. I think the first is it's that person that's up and coming, right? That views this as, I'll just say it, no one wants to hear their school as being a stepping stone job, but let's be honest, we are not at the highest level of Division I in football, and the Big West is not the most amazing conference for basketball. And so you have to catch that candidate that's on their way up, that person that's in their early to mid-30s. Maybe this is their first head coaching job, and full stop, they really expect to be there for about 3 years. Okay. I'd rather hire a new great coach every 3 years than hire a subpar coach every 3 years. No matter what, you're going to be hiring a new coach every 3 to 4 years, right? Let's hire the person that's got fire in the belly and is climbing the ladder, so to speak. And again, they have to understand that this is an academic institution first, and they have to embrace that challenge. So you got to think outside of the box. You cannot do things that are not unique to Cal Poly. You've got to be creative in your thinking. And the second profile would be, similar to what I think UC Davis has done a really good job. They've got Dan Hawkins, right? He was an alumni. He coached there in the past. He's kind of on the back end of his career, if you will, but he views this as this is his place. Sure. He knows what makes it special. He knows how to get things done. And I think he would probably even admit this is the place that he wants to retire, but it makes sense because of his prior history to the place, to the job. I think where you go wrong is that person that is like, I'm here to retire, and you get that level of effort. You get retirement effort. If they don't have prior connection or prior reason, this isn't like their homecoming job, I think you struggle. So this would be like a non person now, but like a Brent Brennan type who's now at Arizona, and so I think he's probably past our point. But in a world where Brent Brennan decides after Arizona, you know what, maybe I've made my money and I want to come home to some place that I'm really passionate about, right, for the last 10 years of my career, whatever, I'd take a flyer on somebody like that, given his connection to the school, a David Phipp, some of these guys that have done really, really well in the coaching ranks. But I think that's where you got to go. I think no matter what, you're going to be hiring a coach at this level with how competitive it is. You got to expect that you're hiring a new coach every 5 years. And if you approach it with that mindset, why would you not go for that coach that's on the way up, that's young, that's hungry, that's going to work to get things done? Yeah. So that's kind of where I'd go with it. What are your thoughts, Troy?
My thoughts on hiring a coach is similar to recruiting a student. I don't understand how San Luis Obispo can't attract the top talent. Who doesn't want to live in San Luis? Who doesn't want to, be a part of that community, be that close to the beach, be in the most beautiful place in the country? I agree with what you're saying, that it is a little bit of a stepping stone school, I suppose, and that maybe you can't bring in the top name, but you should be able to bring in somebody. And you should be able to bring in somebody good, I would think.
Well, it's going to be the person that understands that, right? That looks out. Somebody's going to see it and go, oh, I can't recruit there because it's in the middle of San Francisco and LA. It's not a near metropolitan area, right? But it's the person that looks at it and says, yeah, but this is the most unique place in the state, right? It's the person that has that mindset. And so I think you have to be able to see the positives and not the obstacles. Because for every positive that we would say, I think that somebody could throw out an obstacle.
Yeah.
And, but it is that person that understands the uniqueness of the place that's going to ultimately be successful there. And if they don't have the connection to the place, I think it makes it a lot easier to get frustrated by the obstacles instead of excited about the challenges.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
I'm really hopeful. The other thing I'd say just too on this basketball deal is I believe this coach had 1 year remaining on his contract. And this is, another, I would say, positive step for the athletic department. Like historically, we have not had a history of, let's just call it what it is. If something's not working out, I don't think we've pulled the plug soon enough. And so I think as an alumni, I actually look at this as, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to realize that it's not working out. Call it what it is, and let's move on.
Yeah.
So and I think this is actually a net positive for the athletic department. You obviously feel terrible. It's a head coach. It's losing their job, their livelihood, right? Like this is a business. They choose to do this, and I think they've been given a fair amount of time to make their imprint on the program, and unfortunately, it's just not where it needs to be. So, I'm excited that the athletic department, and I think a lot of this, Ryan, to your point, comes down to the funding and a lot of the resources that probably just haven't existed in the past. This really speaks to the alumni base that's engaged, being willing to buy those things out and kind of not throw bad money on good money.
Yeah. Well, on a separate note, the spring game and alumni barbecue and get together through the home team, that's going to be on April 27th. So we'll hopefully do a couple podcasts before then and talk about it. But just want to get that on everyone's calendar. April 27th, spring ball game. Maybe I could do a live broadcast and patch you in, Kyle and Troy. So we'll see if we could get that done. But real quick, as we're ending here, pretty cool what Cal Poly baseball is doing, let alone beating Ohio State 19-2 yesterday. That was pretty cool.
Beat the pants off them.
Yeah. I saw some funny memes on social media.
The same school that football does. That's what I don't understand. How are they so darn successful? How have they figured it out? But football can't.
Baseball?
Yeah. How's the baseball team so year after year competitive and successful? I mean, they're recruiting the same kids that football is, right? They have the same recruiting standards. They have the same academic standards, right?
I think baseball's been blessed with, they've had great facilities, great fan base, and be able to pull from the Bay Area and Southern California for baseball has been fantastic. But let's be honest, they've sent multiple guys to the bigs, and that's a huge deal. The
also
last
think
20
Big
years,
West-
like, tons of guys.
I also think the Big West is like a very reputable baseball conference in the country.
It's like top three: SEC, Big West, and Pac-12. They're like up there.
So West Coast baseball kind of dominates.
Yeah.
Midwest is just not. It's football and it's basketball, and baseball is kind of their third tier. So, it is exciting. Again, kind of to the point I was making earlier about ESPN Plus, like it's amazing to scroll through and see Cal Poly playing Ohio State. It's amazing. Like that's great when you flip it on and we're winning 19-2. You feel such pride. And so kudos to the baseball team for taking on those challenges and for thumping those Ohio State boys. More of that.
Absolutely.
We need more of that. Those are proud moments as an alumni. We can do it.
Well,
Hey,
our goal.
I had a question for you.
Yeah.
This wasn't something we talked about, and it's for both of you guys. But maybe we'll do it for Troy. We'll start with Troy. You can answer it next time, Ryan. If you were going to SLO and visit SLO for the first time, you've never been there before, what would be one thing? I'm going there for the first time. What would be one thing that you got to do?
Wow. Well,
You've got an afternoon. You've got an afternoon. You've got from noon till 9 p.m. in SLO. What do you do?
well, you got to eat at Firestone, right? I mean, that's the staple of San Luis. Every time I go, that's the first place I go is get a tri-tip sandwich.
There's your afternoon there.
You can spend all day there with all the TVs, and that's a wonderful place. If you haven't been to Firestone, you got to check it out. I love Avila Beach. Going down there, Avila's a great place. I love Avila. If you haven't hiked Bishop's Peak, that's an excellent hike.
That is an excellent hike.
Firestones and burn it off with a little Bishops. I like it. Yeah.
Gotta get your
That's a good play.
Well, our goal, everyone, is to film these on Sunday and release them on Monday, and we're trying to keep them around a half hour. So we're going to wrap it up here. But I can't thank you guys enough for hopping on here, and this was fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, thanks
for organizing this.
It'll be a good time.
Another housekeeping item. Our email for this podcast is ShottyLockerRoom@gmail.com. Would love everyone to email. Send us any topics you guys want to talk about. You want to say hi, we'll give you guys a shout out in the podcast. Please share to your fellow teammates and alumni as we get going here. And we're going to try to ramp this up to make it really fun and inclusive for many generations of Mustangs. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great week.
All right, everybody. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.